In case you are coming across my channel for the first time, in my last video I explained how to draft a Victorian corset, which is linked in the description. So today I want to explain how to sew the patterns together. First thing I'm going to do is mark 0.75 inches all round, which will serve as our sewing allowance, and then you're going to cut this out on the lining and fabric. After cutting it out, I ironed my stay to the fabric, although I did that off camera. I have to make sure that I iron air stay to the fabric and the lining. According to the way I labeled the pieces together, that's how I'm going to arrange it. I actually made a mistake earlier with the front pattern. I misplaced one of the piece, and for some reason I didn't notice on time. So this is just me putting back that piece which I misplaced earlier. As you can see, the Victorian corset is looking a bit wonky, and that's because of the piece that I did not include. So I'm just going to correct that and then pin everything together. So I'm just pinning everything, and then I'm going to sew around it using that 0.75 inches that I left earlier. And I'll do the same thing for the lining. After sewing all of the pieces together, I'm just going to connect the back and the front piece together. So you have to make sure that you label everything to determine the part that is the center front and the part that is going towards the side for the back, and also the top and the bottom for the back, because it's very easy to mix it up. So this is just me pinning everything down after properly arranging the pieces together. So after pinning it down, I'm going to hold it with the 0.75 inch which I left for the sewing allowance. Then I'll repeat the same process for my lining. So guys, after stitching everything down, what you need to do next is iron everything out. So I'm just ironing out that 0.75 inches, and ironing is flat. So while ironing, it's very important that for the cup area you use your breast ball or tailor's ham to iron that part so that the cup will really come out. So this is just me using my tailor's ham to iron the cup area. Make sure that it's laid flatly on the breast ball, and then just iron it out properly. So I'm going to show you guys the difference between the part that is ironed with the breast ball and the part that is not ironed with it. If you iron your corset without a breast ball, the cup is not going to come out nicely. These are some of the mistakes that people make when sewing corset. I used to make this mistake as well. I didn't used to use a breast ball when ironing, and then the cup always came out weird, and it was most likely because I didn't used to iron my cup properly. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of difference between this cup and the other cup. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is create my boning channels. To do this, I'm just going to measure the width of my boning, and then I'm going to use that as a guide when sewing my boning channels in place. So the boning channels, they're just going to be at the joining area. So from the points of each joining for both the front and the back, I'm going to measure out the width for my boning and just sew a straight line from top to bottom, and then I'm going to do this everywhere for the entire joining for both the front and the back. The next thing I want to do now is turn the neckline for this corset. So I'm just making trimmings where necessary. As you can see, I'm not trimming out too much. If the trimming that you're doing is excess, then perhaps the way you sew the corset wasn't accurate. So make sure that what you're trimming is not too excessive. So I'm just going to use my pins to pin everything down. I always pin down before sewing, because if there's any mistake, you'll be able to identify it before sewing the fabric and then having to lose everything, which will make your sewing to be rough. So just make sure that you pin everything down. At this point, I'm fixing my modesty panel. So my modesty panel is in between the lining and the fabric. I'm so sorry that I didn't get a video of me cutting the modesty panel. but I just cut a fabric that is equal to the length of my corset and then doubled it. So the fabric was for both the lining and then the main part of the modesty panel that will be showing. So I just pinned that down and then made stitches all round. So this is me after I've made all of the stitch and I've ironed the neckline down. After doing that, what I'm doing now is putting in the boning. So for the tip of the boning, I'm just using my scissors to make it curvy so that it won't tear the lining or tear the fabric and it won't poke me too when I wear it. So after doing that, I'm just going to measure 1 inch from the hemline and then cut that out. So I'm basically making the boning 1 inch shorter than the corset length so that I'll be able to turn the fabric without the boning getting in the way. After doing all of that, I actually just used fire to melt the edge. So you can use fire to melt the edge. You can use paper tape to just cover the edge of the boning, but I don't really like that method. And then you can also use nail file to file the edge of the boning to make it smooth so it won't be sharp. So this is just me putting in all of the boning. You can iron the boning before putting it in the corset, or you can iron it out after you have placed it inside the corset. So for this one, I'm actually just putting in the boning before ironing. After fixing the boning, I'm going to run another 1/2 inch stitch at the back of the corsets on the edges of both sides. So this stitch is going to run on both the fabric and the lining so that I'll be able to fix in boning to make the eyelet stay in place. After doing that, I'm going to turn the bottom, but leave about 1/2 inch on both sides. This is because of the boning, so I'll top stitch on that area after turning the bottom of the corset. So this is me stitching the hemline down. And you're probably wondering how I'm going to turn this fabric. So I left a space in the lining of about 6 inches, and it is from that point that I'm going to turn the corset inside out and then top stitch on that area. So after I finish doing that, I just iron the corset down so that the boning will be straight and then the actual shape of the corset can come out. Now this is going to take time, but just be patient with it. So guys, remember I said that this is actually my first attempt at making a Victorian corset. Turns out that I actually made a mistake with the modesty panel. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I placed it in the wrong place. I just saw a video online and I followed it blindly. So this modesty panel has to go, and I'm just trying to cut it off, making sure that I trim it in a way that it won't be obvious that I cut something off. And sadly, that's just how that part of the corset is going to look. But I'm not too bummed about it because it's my first attempt, so I can make a mistake, right? I'm definitely going to be making more Victorian corsets in the future because I'm not satisfied with this look. Yeah, I did very well for this one, but I feel like I can do better. So to correct my mistake, I'm just going to put the modesty panel beside the eyelet just like this and then run a straight line. And lucky for me, it's not even going to be obvious. It's just going to look like one of the style lines on the corset. So I'm just going to place it like this and that's just how it's going to be. I'm definitely going to work on this again, but I just feel like I don't have to delete all of the videos that I did, and I can just put it out there and hopefully it will be a lesson for someone else. So after I've done that, what I want to do now is fix my eyelets. And guess what? There's also another mistake here. So this is actually my first time using an eyelet, and then when I went to buy the eyelet, I just asked for an eyelet and they asked what size. I told them the big size and they gave me this one. And I know that an eyelet usually have the eyelet and the eyelet cover, and I thought the eyelet came with an eyelet cover, so I didn't even bother to check because something came up. And I just took it like that and went home. Then I realized that it was just the eyelet that was there, but the eyelet cover didn't come with it. So guess what? I fixed it like that and I was like, okay, I'll go to the market and get the eyelet cover and just complete it. Turns out that the eyelet I actually bought is not the eyelet that usually comes with an eyelet cover. So I was like, okay, great, what am I going to do now? So I just like found a way to fix the eyelets, but the kind of eyelets that I bought, I can actually still work with it without an eyelet cover. So anyway, if you want to buy an eyelet, please ask for the biggest size and the one that comes with an eyelet cover, so you won't make the same mistake as me. So let me just show you guys how I fixed this particular eyelet in case if there's anybody else that is going through this right now. So to fix an eyelet, you first need to mark out where you want to place the eyelet. And for me, I'm using a distance of 1.5 inch between each of the eyelets. So I'm just going to mark that out on both sides and make sure that they are both aligned when I place them together, as you can see. So next thing I'm going to do is use my scissors to cut a hole that will fit through the eyelet, and then I'm going to put the eyelet through. So I'm actually going to use a glue first. I prefer to use glue around the eyelets before putting it on the fabric because it will allow it to hold properly, especially because I'm not using the proper tool for fixing an eyelet, so that glue will just give it an extra hold. And I'm going to do this all around. So after fixing the eyelets on the fabric, I'm going to use my plier. You can also use the scissors for this to push out that part that has been divided into 5. I'm just going to push it outwards, as you can see me doing on the screen, and then use hammer or anything hard to hit it down so it lays flat. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really don't recommend using this particular eyelet because it's just not as neat as the other type, but it's still very okay. The fabric isn't coming out of the eyelet, so it's still fine. So it was after fixing the eyelets that I now went to correct the modesty panel, and then I used a bias to create my loop for the corset, and this is the result from it. So it's looking very nice, it's looking firm and okay. But I think one thing I'm going to do next time is that for the neckline, I'm going to suppress at least 2 inches, because when drafting the pattern I suppressed just 1 inch so that the chest can relax well. Okay, but it's still really fine, it's okay, and I really hope that this video is useful for some of you guys, even though I know it's not perfect and it doesn't have all the perfect information that you probably expected from it, but I just felt like I should still put that out there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel because I still have more interesting and informative video coming up. Please subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.